if the group is not able, or the group leader is not able to submit it, can one of the other teammates submit the assignment on behalf, or does it
Yes.
literally just, can they?
Yeah, but somebody must take responsibility. Otherwise, it becomes a problem, because then everybody thinks somebody else is going to submit it. So it's better to have somebody take responsibility for that. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. I do think the questions that I had was a bit disjointed this week. It was, I think, centered more around people not liking their groups than it was around content necessarily. Although I do think there is some, based on some of the emails that I get for requests that you guys have to see people, I do think there's a little bit of a misinterpretation of what it is that you have to do with those 4 places. Right. So those 4 places I could have given to you in a different way. I could have said, use the fresh or fast agri processing as an industry. Or I could have said, use the aggregate industry. Sorry. But so I gave you these resources, and I keep on saying it's resources, so that you guys get the idea that you use this as a resource. So, and not necessarily only the query, but the stuff that comes out of the query, the position of the query. Or you can use it in different ways. There's no need for you to go speak to the people at the quarry. They're not going to give you a problem to solve. You're not going to sell anything to them. You need to use them as a quarry. There's no need to interview the mayor of the city. She will not be able to give you any insights. The idea, guys, and it seems that you are kind of missing that point a little bit. I want to see if I can just share a whiteboard. The whole idea is in the end to propose a business, right? So this first part of um oh, oh my goodness. Can one of you admit everyone so I can just keep on talking? Okay. Mm, Just take all this out. So the whole idea behind what we are doing, and also in the bigger scheme of HR Bus. So one of the students had an email that so how does this link into everything that you're doing into what the module is about? So the module is about planning, right? Doing and reporting on any research within the business management area, right? So, or in a way that's fit for business management. So, what we are doing now is we are taking a tool, the business model canvas, and we're using that tool to help us to plan, do, and report on a business related research, right? Not academic research at this point, but practical research. So we're actually doing it so that we understand that we are going through the process to solve a problem. And I do think that's where a lot of the problems come from, and these requests to meet with the fresh produce market. You will not understand any research if you do not understand the problem, right? So if we go and we look at what the problem is that you need to solve. So I had a very nice conversation with one of the students this week about the problem. And I somehow was busy making you your onion video. And I decided let's use the whole onion industry as an example. So how are onions cultivated? Onions don't like a lot of water to stand in. They want to get enough water, but they don't want their feet wet. So meaning they don't want to stand in clay water. And they want to you have to pull them out and you put them on the field to dry out, and then they start packaging them. Okay, so you find that they are very particular to where they want to be planted, and you also find that they are very particular to when they get rain. Okay. Now, once people, and the same, so once the onions are pulled, they can't get wet. And then we take them, we cut them, we put them in a plastic bag. And if you forget to take them out of the plastic bag, they rot in the plastic bag in the kitchen. So you still think you have a nice packet of onions, and then you have a nice soup of fruit onions in your fridge, right? Um, so what is the problem in there? What's the problem? What do
It's
you
the pack.
think the problem is?
It's the
You didn't air
packaging.
the onions.
The onions? What about the onions?
You didn't air it because it doesn't like
Yes.
water and it doesn't like moisture in a closed sealed packet or a bag. It wouldn't survive. It likes air.
No, it likes air. You didn't air the onions. So the problem is the packaging creates a condensing environment, and it puts water on top of the onion stalk. Okay. So why do we package onions in plastic?
Okay, but in
What?
using this,
Elton?
yeah, sorry, doctor. Using this scenario, uh, I've seen onions packed in both plastic and that other see-through stringy type bag.
Hmm.
But I suppose, and I'm just guessing now, it's to do with cost. Maybe packing it for a producer, maybe using plastic is more cost effective than using this other type of stringy bag that lets in enough air in that, so create a longevity for the onions.
So
So
where do onions grow, Elton? Do they grow on top of the ground or under the ground?
it's under the ground.
So why don't we just take them and take those nice green leaves and tie them and sell them as they are? Why do we want to use single-use plastic to package them?
I suppose the one of the issues might be theft as well. You know, if it's loose, it can easily disappear.
Tie them all together at the stem, so at least somebody has to cut those green leaves off. Let me
Mhm.
take another example. So this is my own pet problem that I've identified. Okay, so there's no real solution for it. Millies. You know sweet corn millies?
Yes.
Yes.
They open them, they spend a lot of money on labor and on packaging to open them so you can see a little bit of the millie sticking out, and cut off the ends and then package them for that they for exactly equal size in a package, and then they pump the price to 25 rand for 4. Why?
Convenience.
Convenience in terms of you don't have to cut the ends and take off the 2 extra leaves.
Yeah, make it easy for the consumer.
Visibility that might be convenience. I still think you can just throw them all in a monkey and people can take how many millis they want. Although out and then it's probably that the theft could play a role there. So, but you see what my problem is as a consumer is I don't like single-use plastic in the packaging of vegetables, né?
Mm.
So, what other solution is there? So I used this example this week. Banana leaves. So how do you do bananas? Bananas is most kind of actually so they grow 3 little plants together, and you harvest the bananas, and then you have to cut the tree down. Then there's another one baby that stand there, and and they push out another one when you cut those ones off. Why don't we use banana leaves to create sustainable packaging for our onions and our what you call them, lilies? They're already covered. Look, an onion comes out of the soil, dirty in the floor, right? And now we take off the first layer of skin, and we do all of these things because people pretend onions come in packages and not out of the ground.
Mm.
So the idea is, right, for you to, so and both onions and mealies you buy at the fresh produce market. And if you look at this whole packaging thing, vegetables are packaged at source. Have you ever realized? Did we realize if you buy a pack of potatoes, a big bag of potatoes, got the farm's name on, even the and fruits and like notchies, it's got the big farms names are printed on the boxes. So they're packaged at source into these things. So it actually costs the farmer money to package things in these funny little plastic bags. So if that is a problem, right, and this is the whole point that I wanted to make, what is it going to help if you speak to the mayor of Tshwane? What are you going to find out more about my problem, about this problem? Is it going to help?
Not necessarily.
No, not really. So who would you need to speak to understand this problem a little bit better?
Maybe people on the ground, people that are close to, who are working in that environment, who has experiences in that resource and environment.
Oh, so you can speak to shop owners, you can speak to, packers, users, you can speak to other consumers, because what? You need to confirm that this is really a problem that irritates more people than only doctors, right? Because that's my problem. If I and this is just surrounding the one resource. Let us take the airport, for example. So the airport is a nice it's closer to Pretoria than our Tambo, but there's no real flights that you can take from there. You can only do, it's like a training airport, so you can't do any commercial flights from there. So it would be nice if there was a closer airport to take flights from. So you could say that there's a problem for proximity to Pretoria for an airport. That could be a problem. So then you would need, or for more localized airports, to widen it up a little bit, because not all of you are situated here. So who would you talk to if the problem was that people need more or not the problem, the irritation or the pain was that there's no local airport? Alton?
My first thinking was going to be the customers, because they're the ones obviously being inconvenienced, but I'm not sure how much of an input they would have then in whoever decides South Africa which airports are used for local and international flights. But based on the problem description that you've raised so far, starting from the onions to the airports, what I've now seen so far, and I'm speaking under correction, is that the customer is the one that's so far mostly frustrated or being inconvenienced, and that's the person that will probably need to be spoken to.
So yes, you have hit the nail on the head. So the idea is to narrow down, to understand in the end exactly who is the customer that experiences the problem, and confirm that you have a big enough market, right, that all experience the problem. If it's only me who gets irritated by those millies in the plastic, right, then will it help looking into different things? Will it make a difference? Will you make money from solving my own problem?
No.
No.
No. So why spend all this effort in this module or in life solving the problem? You just say, Dr. Sander, suck up. Nee. Buy millies, leave the millies, buy the other ones next to the road. You know? So,
Yeah.
and that's the whole point. Okay, Sipoko?
Evening, ma'am. Evening, colleagues. I'm one of the people who have chosen the Vonderboom airport, and I must say one of the challenges that in my group we have is we've never even seen this airport. Obviously, we did a desktop view of it and all of that, and I'm not even familiar with Pretoria. So one of the questions that we wanted to ask you this afternoon is looking at exactly what you are saying. It's a small airport. There's less than 100 people working in that airport in the first place, and there's a community around the airport, right? So the customers of would be probably from what I understand, even the military uses that airport. So what I wanted to ask was, I cannot go to Pretoria and talk to anyone that is around that area and all of that because we live far. Can we not? I live in Cape Town. We have a similar airport in Cape Town. And I'm assuming the pains and gains of those kind of airports would be almost similar, right? It won't be exactly the same because it's two different communities, but if you get what I mean, like if it's a small
So
airport and there's,
you can
yeah.
even I'm that's why I said use it as a resource. So don't look to the Wonderboom airport. Understand that's why we did the first a second assignment, right? Let's forget about the first one, the second one, right? To understand what surrounds this. So now you already identified, okay, there is something similar to this in Cape Town, right? So it is already understanding that environment a little bit better. You can already say it might not be exactly the same pains and gains, but the customer would be people that are not necessarily using the main main airports. And there might be different reasons. For example, not being close to it and being in a more rural area. Right. So why don't we have smaller flights? Because there's probably economies of scale surrounding it. Or weather patterns or whatever. So look at it like that. You can also even look at it even different. Say, okay, this if we position this and say, okay, it's a port. So the airport is the same as a fishery port, which could almost look the same as a small tiny harbor. Right? So if you're closer to a harbor, the pains and gains there would be similar to pains and gains at the tiny little airport. So you are allowed to make those big kind of jumps. Just justify them in your final pitch to say, okay, this is how we started it. This is the problem we identified. We identified it, um, you know, this way or that way, or however reason, how do you get to it? Okay. Sandri?
Good evening, Doctor. I just have a point of clarification to ask. So, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, what we're trying to do is not interview to establish viability of the business. We are
No.
interviewing to establish the problem of the customer. So we don't need to go and speak to a supply chain to try and figure out if we're going to be able to get what we need for whatever cost we need. The point of this exercise is to speak to the target market and see whether our problem exists with it.
Yes, that's the point. The whole point is to confirm that there is the problem that you think there is really a problem, and it's not Dr. Stander and her millies.
Okay.
Sure.
No, that makes sense. And then just elaborating on what you said, from moving from the specific resource that was mentioned in assignment 2. We can, for example, on the fresh produce, we can extend that to retailers, I'm assuming. And when we do the
Yes.
interviews, we can discuss the fresh section within a retailer with our interviewees, rather than specifically a fresh produce market.
You would see that there was a problem with the high electricity cost and the food spoilage at retailers, right?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden everyone's putting glass doors on their fridges. They were always open. So there
Yeah.
was a problem that I experienced based on the fresh produce not staying fresh or whatever the problem would have been. And they are solving it by putting that on. But it was a problem that everyone experienced and that a company could solve and actually make money from. So you're looking for a problem that's worth solving, so something that is really a problem, and a solution to that problem that you can solve and make money from.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Thank you,
Okay.
Doctor.
Sean?
Doc, on our topic, the Swana Events Ground. So we did the industry map as per our assignment 2, and we're on the
Let me just
poster.
mute everyone, Sean. I'm gonna mute them and then you just unmute again.
Okay.
Okay, Sean, go.
Yeah, Doc, on the our group is obviously we on the Swana Event Center. So we done the assignment with the poster, and we identified the stakeholders, which were 5, and all of us now have chosen one to understand and do the basic interview process. We do gather that you don't need to go to the top of the chain in these industries to get the information. However, just as an example, so certain of the other stakeholders, like the local community, it's easy to speak to them. SMMEs is kind of easy. Event organization, not as easy, but you can get to speak to other people who do events. So the one that I'm tasked with, obviously, the city of Swane. So I understand it doesn't have to be the city of Swane. It can be anywhere. It could be city of Johannesburg, how it got as well. So the stakeholders is quite, so for me to get the interviews with the stakeholders, be it blue collar workers, white collar workers, to understand exactly how they feel and go through that. It is difficult to get. Am I right on the right track? I'm not saying I want to speak to the CEO of Eskom, but water, sanitation, infrastructure. I'm trying to gather data.
Okay,
Is that the right way?
So yeah, it can be. It depends on what the problem is. So, and who are you solving it for? So remember, you want to narrow it a little bit more than to look at it. So to speak to the CEO of the Tshwane Economic Development Agency, right, is going to give you insights into what they think of that asset, right? But it won't really give you insights into the problem, right? So you would have done desktop analysis. And so what an interesting way of looking, for example, at that asset is, it is an events grant, but it's not being used at the moment for much. Some here and there, it was always used for the big shows, but also not being used. So if you look surrounding that and you speak to the easier clients, it's easier to say, okay, let's speak to the people standing around. Why? What is the problems in this area? And then you can say, okay, there's perhaps crime or that type of thing. Is that something that you want to solve? So one of the solutions that were quite an interesting proposition that I've had for that specific resource was to, why don't you turn that into a like a incubation hub or a what you call that, small factories where small SMMEs can build, have
Yes.
factories that you can use, or you set up, sewing stations or different things. So if you want to make clothes, you can hire a machine or whatever. So, use it to solve a different problem. So don't look at it as something that is a problem. Look at it as something that could solve perhaps, like I said, a resource to use those spaces as mini factories or, that type of thing.
multi-purpose. We look at like multi-purpose opportunities for
A tech
SMEs
hub.
to
Yeah.
grow. To grow, so you can
Yeah.
get from a dilapidation, you can get some growth and throughput as well. So that's exactly what we're doing. So the talking to the city, talking to the blue collar workers, talking to people that work in all the. Is that the right guideline? I'm not talking
I
about going.
wouldn't necessarily talk to the city. There's not it within the end. If this is something that you think, okay, it's something that we want to invest time in actually doing, then because the city is only the owner of that resource. So once you want to start using that resource, and then you could go and say, okay, let me put whatever we are pitching now to Dr. Standard. Let's first put it through a stress test. There's going to be a competition once, an international Switzerland competition that's coming up, I think, in August. By that time, you would have done your pitches, and we'll ask which groups want to participate. So if you then want to say, okay, we're going to participate, put our idea through the stress test for that, then I will link you up with the mayor and the CEO of TIDA. But until then, let's work with those big stakeholders, hypothetically. Otherwise, they're going to have like 600 students wanting to interview them.
Because I was
But
looking
you have
at
the right
I was looking
idea.
at a doc.
Yeah.
Sorry, just with that, with the city. So it's not. I'm talking about all the parts of the city. It could be the, for example, the ANC, the DA in the communities, who's managing that community and finding out information exactly what's going on. So I want to uncover, let's talk about the city, uncover what I don't know and ask the questions, because through the city of Tshwane, it has been a disruptive regarding legal issues between the city and the other players that caused also issues for it to, that's one of the things. So it's more like uncovering what I don't know. That's what I'm trying to do there.
I would avoid that, trying to uncover what you don't know. I would
Okay.
kind of use what you have at the moment, and on this desktop analysis that you have, right? It's very difficult to do customer discovery if you're still trying to kind of uncover what you don't know about the place in itself, about the resource. So I would focus it a bit away from them specifically. Look, last year the students thought that the city would be their customer, and these are never. That was never the intention with this assignment. The intention was merely to give you kind of a footing to start off with, to say, okay, look at something surrounding this, or using empty buildings that are of the city that's just standing there. One other option that you can use these empty buildings for is vertical farming, for example, right? So how would that work? But to wanting to interview, to uncover, you would see also the questions won't fit that type of interview, because the idea is to discover a customer through this process, not to discover the problem or to understand what the problems are surrounding that specific thing. And the interviews shouldn't necessarily be broken down per stakeholder. So for assignment 3, you look at the stakeholders so that you can understand where the problems lie. So this would be to say, okay, perhaps by accident one of the counselors.
Yeah.
And you can, for assignment 3, speak to them and uncover the problem a little bit. That's your competitive advantage, right? So there's a whole theory about how networks are competitive advantage. So, but if you don't, you won't necessarily get access to that information. Now, for the next assignment 4, we do the interviews. The idea is to break it down into, let me just show you, where did my mouse go? There are too many people's mouses. I can't find my days find. Okay, so the idea is to kind of stand here on the peripheral, right, and say, okay, I see, let's take the events ground. I see there's empty buildings. Those empty buildings might be a problem. Okay. Now let's first speak to the people surrounding that. Now there are different people that you also said there's different stakeholders that you could talk to. But what is the problem that you want to talk to them about? Is it that you want to talk to them about the empty buildings and the crime? Because the problem is at the center, right? So do you want to solve the crime related to empty buildings? Or do you want to fill the empty buildings? So you're keeping them empty or you're filling them? That's your first kind of question that you need to ask yourself. And then you go and you speak to a set of people. So you speak to Carla and Charles and Stella and people that you know, your mother and whoever is like, listen, these big empty buildings that you see in the city, have you ever thought, what can they do? Have you ever thought what these problems might be? There's kind of a list of things. But the idea is to confirm this problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now you find out, they have thought about this problem a little bit, and I think you must get the idea to kind of use them, fill them up, right? Either convert them into like social housing or student accommodation, I don't know, whatever. Okay, now you do your next 5 interviews. Like, all right, now we're going the filling route, right? We're not leaving them empty. Okay, so if we fill them, what problems can we perhaps solve? Okay, so we said we can create the innovation hub, we can do vertical farming, student housing, all different ideas. So you do 5 interviews each, and you say, okay, the biggest problem that the CBD has is there's a lot of people and there's not a lot of ground for agriculture. Okay, now we're going to do the next set of interviews. Now we've already done 5, 5, 5. Okay, now we do our set of interviews. And we confirm that people have a problem with the empty buildings. They want them filled, and that they have a problem that there's not a lot of ground for agriculture. Now we put them the two together. We are going to use the buildings to put up a vertical agriculture system, and Summer provides vegetables to the fresh produce market and put in fish to feed them. So the idea is to every time break it down a little bit and do consecutive resources interviews, drilling them down to the problem, so that now we've confirmed the problem. And then you're going to come up with an idea to solve that problem because your problem is confirmed. So also the first thing, if this is something that you want to do, is that the hub will ask you is, okay, what is the problem? So you say the problem is a lack of agricultural ground in Tshwane. Okay, who says that? Now, Mr. Of Prof Mpofu, we did 100 interviews, breaking them down, and the majority of the people of the informal traders say or people staying in Tshwane say they want to plant tomatoes and things, but there's no ground for them to plant. We did 100 interviews, and it confirms that there is indeed this problem. Okay, then they will start listening to you. But I never in this whole conversation had to speak to bigger stakeholders than the people that actually is going to use what I am selling. Because in this, I've drilled down to the customer as well. Do you understand? So I've drilled down to say, okay, it is the city slickers that stay within the CBD that would want to form this way. So there's a lot. Sorry, I'm getting sick again. There's also a lot of people who would like to go into agriculture, especially modern agriculture that brings you close to the city. But there isn't, but farms are flipping expensive, especially when they are close to a city. So the use of old derelict or not derelict, old buildings that are empty to do that type of thing also solves that problem. So, and then you understand how then if you are solving a problem, it starts opening ideas to actually make money from now solving that problem. Sean?
Yes. Yes, Doc. So on the assignment 3, we all chose the stakeholders. We all took the same stakeholders, and mine was City of Tshwane, which I've done what I thought in a day in the life from 8 to 5:30. What do I believe that they're doing? So now I'm thinking from here, I need to go and interview people in the city, the city meaning Eskom, meaning that's what I'm thinking.
No. So now you guys need to consolidate, right? So you give me one learning card, right? That you have. You're starting here with the learning card to say, okay, we've learned that this might be a problem in the city, empty buildings. Right?
Okay.
That's what we learned. Okay. Then what are we going to test? We're going to test that why is empty buildings a problem? There's a lot of reasons that you could say. But now we have to go start testing things. That's why these are learning and testing cards. Okay. So now let's go test if people feel that these empty buildings being empty is a problem. Okay. We do the test. And what did we learn? Yes. People do not like the empty buildings. Okay. So they want us to fill the empty buildings. Okay. So to confirm that, we again go do the same set of interviews and say, okay, do you agree that we need to fill the empty buildings because the empty buildings is a problem? Yes. Now we confirm it. Now we do the next set of interviews. Okay, so if we fill this, what other problems do people in the city, in your stakeholders, have? Right? You did the analysis. You could see where these problems intersect in the day of the life. Okay, so an informal trader has to go all the way to Pretoria West to go buy his stuff and then travel all the way back to the city CBD to sell it. Okay, that's a problem for them because it costs them a lot of money. They can't transport all of these things. Okay, so perhaps we can use this empty building to solve this problem. Okay, so this is what we learned from the previous assignment that's going to poodle through to solving this problem for empty thing. Okay, let's confirm. Do informal traders? Yes, they have this problem. Okay, what do we need to confirm now? And then you work through it, what do I learn? What do I test? What do I learn? What do I test? So don't break it up and say, okay, everybody's going to do it. So you have to say, okay, this is what we want to learn. So we're going to test this now. Now everybody is interviewing the same people or the same range of people. And why do you need to interview? Because in the end, what's the purpose of an interview? Interview is to get saturation in the end, to say, okay, in academic research, they say you start to get saturation once you've done 12 interviews, right? So I need to confirm, also saturate the data to make sure that this problem of an empty building is there, that this problem that we have here of people moving too far and wide also exists, and that in the end, if I come up with a solution, right, that enough people have this problem that they will buy my solution. So you can't keep it split by stakeholder anymore. You need to combine it so that in the end, you can give me your customer gains and pains. Because if you keep it split by stakeholder, Sean, you're going to end up having different customers. Because every customer looks at every stakeholder will look at that specific resource through a different lens. So you will need to narrow it down into that. That's why you have to do that learning card to make sure that you are all literally on the same page. What did we learn and what is the biggest problem that we need to solve? And then idea is to do the interviews to narrow down to exactly who is experiencing that specific problem.
Okay, got it. So the way I'm doing it is keeping it separate is the wrong way. We need to group with all the stakeholders and try and find the problem. And we interview the similar people and the similar things to get more as you think, saturation and get more information.
Yeah, so you need to, in that picture that I had of the onion, you need to literally dig into, make your ideas flow, and so that you can crystallize the problem in the end. So you know exactly what is the problem, who is experiencing it.
I think I got it. Thank you, Doc.
Okay. NH.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good. I just want to ask, from the answer that you've given, Sean, I'm going to give an example. Let's say perhaps I'm trying to solve hunger at the back of my mind, and I've identified various stakeholders, and we've conducted a customer profile maybe for like an NGO. And if we've conducted a profile for an NGO that maybe does charity, I'm trying to approach.
You still need to have problem that you're going to solve. So let's go back to the empty buildings, right? So there's different ways. As I use this vertical agriculture as an example now. So vertical agriculture. So let me ask you or tell you. So I had a master student that looked at informal traders and their practices. So informal traders play a very critical role in the food security of any country, especially South Africa, because of this past that we had here that I said earlier, because they go and get the food and they bring it back. Okay. So if you want to look at the SDG surrounding hunger, the idea of vertical farming within a city where informal traders can then buy directly here so they don't have to spend that money coming in and out, formalizes and reduces a lot of the stigma surrounding informal traders, but it also gives them an access point for quick and easy access to resources. So don't come. So and it's important, and and it's very important that you don't start this process already with the solution kind of in mind. Yeah, so to start, it's okay, I want to do an NGO. Okay, it's fine. You don't have to make a profit out of it, but you still need to kind of have a sustainable livelihood. So NGI doesn't make profit, but they need to generate income. How do you generate income? Is from grants. Grants you get if the problem is big enough.
Okay. Okay. So the reason I was asking is because I'm looking at an NGO based on wanting to solve for hunger, and other two SDGs, which would be climate change and waste reduction, etc. So I'm looking maybe like, for example, the Tshwane fresh produce market and how they manage their waste. And if maybe before the produce goes to waste, they can actually generate through charities or something like that. So I'm trying to find that gap, but nonetheless, I'm digressing. I'm saying that when I'm looking at NGO, am I consulting an NGO and various NGOs to find out how their food supply works, or am I going in that
You
NGO?
go exactly the same route because you want to confirm that there is a big enough problem. So
Okay.
I can, just to get speaking to what you said, I now can also say that the fresh produce market has got a very strict rules when it comes to what they can and cannot do with food.
Yes.
So yeah, so they cannot, their policy does not allow them to give that food away to and the city also has a safety concerns to charities and things. So that has always been a kind of an issue, but policy wise, that's something that the government, I don't think, wants to give rotten food to, or almost rotten food to charities. I think they feel, you can't do that. So they've got the ethical problem with it. So that's not necessarily something that you would, without a lot of political will, get off the ground.
Okay. So
Yeah, but if you can solve it, you can look at it from a way to get around it, but it will require a lot of political pull to get that in. But look at it. Perhaps there is some way that you could speak to farmers about, things that don't sell.
So
Or
that's why actually I wanted to ask this question, because when I was not really interviewing, but when I was engaging with the market agent, they did explain that, for example, if they have to give something away, it would be ideal for you to communicate with the farmers. So that's why I'm asking that if you're looking at an NGO as our customer in the customer profile, is it possible to engage more than one NGO or more than one stakeholder rather, or should you just delve to the
Look,
stakeholders?
you can. So in the end, you want to. So just watch out, and I want to just make it clear again. The farmers are a bit of a interesting bunch. So don't try to engage necessarily with them because they still won't be your customer, right?
Yes.
But and I really want to urge you guys to just don't go that route. I had a master student that did research on that, or actually a guy that I mentored, and they almost had a problem with the farmers. So, but when it comes to that, you know how you can solve for it as an NGO. You can create a online there's a pricing mechanism, right? That they use. They've got a lot of it, like the commodities, like mealies and oats. I think are all listed. I've got listed prices, but you could have a live dashboard for prices, right? For
Mm-hmm.
these vegetables and things. And then say, okay, why, if I have this live dashboard and the farmer knows what their cost was, right, for producing things, you could have the price there and then have a option to make contact with a charity to donate stuff that doesn't meet market um, standards or that doesn't meet market price. So you almost have like an online bidding platform. And then when the farmers don't get their price, they can just click to give it away or sell it then at a nominal price to NGOs or something.
Yes. So yeah, so I think you've kind of like answered my question, because the question I wanted to ask is, should we focus on one stakeholder since we've drafted a profile, even though on the learning card maybe we could have identified other people to interview. So I think you've answered my question that you can engage more than one person.
You
So I
can
think
engage more than one person, but just do it in a learning card fashion. To say, okay, we've done interviews here, we've learned this, now we're gonna test this. But
okay.
don't do it isolated and everyone take one, because you won't in the end drill down to understand the problem.
Yeah, so the learning card is progressive. It doesn't work in silos to say, okay,
Yeah.
team number one, interview two people, team member number two, interview two people. It works in progression to say we've learned this, then we move on to the step.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, Farai.
Thank you, Doctor. I just wanted to also just make a follow-up. I just want your guidance in terms of how we approach the Tshwane events grounds or event grounds. We actually kind of collaborating with what you're saying, that people don't like to see empty buildings, but our approach was to restore it because we knew how it used to operate. And as a group, we agreed that we needed to kind of restore it back to its former glory. And we looked at it from that perspective to say, what could people benefit, or what is the problem right now? There's crime around it. It's dirty, and the communities around it obviously are getting affected if there's crime. And if we're going to turn it to its former glory, what is it that we can maybe, like you said, don't look at it with a solution, but we're also kind of thinking in our head to say, will it bring economic development, and will it create things like employment and stuff like that? Is that a correct approach? And then for interviews, we're also thinking of the current competitions that are there or in the industry. For example, there's Chris Brown in FNB in Joburg. We were thinking of also interviewing like the attendees, in terms of what were the experience, what would they think perhaps if something like that in Pretoria happens at this one is. So that's how we were looking at it. I just wanted to know, are we in the right track?
Yeah, so you can also look at interviewing people. So any people that go to that Chris Brown. So there's also in Pretoria specifically, there's something that comes up in August called Kragdag. It's about a big show about alternative energy. The biggest one where President Cyril was now is called NAMPU. So that's the agricultural show, the big agricultural show. It's also a follow-up agricultural shows called NAMPU Alpha. So there's a lot of different agricultural shows happening. Why aren't they coming to 20?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
Where are we now? Sanri.
Hi, Doctor. I'm sorry, I've just got a follow-up question. So from what you're saying, we are basically evolving our interviews as we move along. So we're going to do, sets of 5, and the idea is to take learning from what we got from those interviews and then move on to the next set. In one of your previous sessions, you mentioned that the interview questions in the interview guide, we can't ask anything outside of that. How do we get to the root of it? The questions are quite broad. Are we allowed to customize them without, changing the gist of it? But are we allowed to?
Yes, you can customize them. You can customize them. They are quite broad, so that they allow for any of the kind of resources or interviews. But the idea is never to go and pitch your solution or your idea, or go and say, I'm going to sell glasses that are made out of beer bottles. Would you buy one? So that is never the idea, nor what you want to do the interviews for. So that's why I prescribe them but within them, you are allowed to, how the interviews work. They are allowed to probe a little bit. So this, what you guys are doing now, is you are probing. So I had what I wanted to give you and a lecture, and then you ask the questions, and you are probing me to give you more and more answers until you understand your problem, and I understand your problem a little bit more. So it's open-ended questionnaire. Just stay within those ranges. Don't go ask people, emotionally upsetting questions. But note that in business research, it's very difficult to do. But you could, step on people's toes very quickly. And unfortunately, this is the first time that you guys are actually doing something like this. So try and keep to the questions and then probe. So ask them that question, and when they respond, then dig a little bit deeper, because then you're kind of confined to not asking emotionally harming questions.
Okay, that makes sense, because I'm just trying to figure out, obviously it would need to be conversational. So there will be a bit of give and take, and based on the responses, you might want to delve deeper into certain aspects. And with us working towards, what we envisage the problem to be, it would be helpful to be able to, within the realms of the questions, just delve a little bit deeper to see if we're on the right track. So I
You
just
are.
confirm.
But stay within that, so you don't ask, they say offense is taken, but in research you can't give offense.
No, understood. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
That helps.
No worries. Alden?
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So just to recap, what we've identified in my group as stakeholders, and some of the stakeholders we've seen can actually be customers as well. That doesn't necessarily mean for the interview questions, those will be the customers, because using your analogy of the empty grounds in Pretoria, it would more than be that I would assume people in the surrounding area, people that have made use of the facilities previously, and people that make use of similar services but at other facilities. So it would be wrong for us now to try and kind of make up or think what the problem can be, because by doing the interviews, we might just find out that what we're thinking was a problem, there's actually another better problem that we're not previously thinking about. So I'm assuming then by doing these interviews, whether it was option A questions or option B questions, that will lead us to real feedback and potentially what they see as the problem. So depending on who you interview, the problem can either be, using again your analogy of the showgrounds, the problem can either be that the building is empty. So what's the negative impact on the surrounding area because of the empty buildings? Or it can be that now because that place is no longer operational, did business leave the area? Was there any kind of inconvenience? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Because
so in the end, the people that you want to interview, right, is the people who you think experience the problem.
Okay.
So that helps.
Yeah, and also I was just thinking as well is, obviously most of us, or some of us, were still working on the assignment that's due today. That leaves us with a week for next week's submission of this assignment, with the interviews. I'm just thinking of myself as well as I hardly ever click on links that's coming from third parties due to the rise of cybercrime in South Africa. What do we do when we encounter a challenge that somebody is perhaps willing to do the interview, but not necessarily comfortable with either clicking that link, because the link in itself can be safe, but the person sending it, their PC might have malware, and in so facto, it's coming to your PC with that malware as well. So what do we do in a situation where we've identified a customer that's prepared to speak, hypothetically speaking, but he or she may have a concern regarding either completing that link for consent due to cybersecurity concerns, or perhaps not being comfortable with being recorded for the interview?
If they're not comfortable with being recorded, you can transcribe manually by hand or type it down.
Okay.
They have to complete informed consent. Otherwise, they can't participate. It's one of those rules that they have to. So if you can even give it to them on your cell phone to complete.
Okay, if they have concerns. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So I just want to quickly have a look. If I push the due date, so because they are very close to each other.
Because we saw in our group between assignment 3 and 4, there's like
4
a
and
week.
5.
Yeah, between now and it's the next one is not due next week Wednesday, and the one after that, the one for 5, is then due a week and a half later.
A week and a couple of days.
Right, so let me just see, because if I push them, I need to push all of them. So otherwise, you're going to end up every week pushing assignments.
Okay. But I
Mm.
suggest if there's an option, maybe you can look at it after the call or tomorrow, and then just send us announcements if it's a yes or no as far as the extensions are
Okay, I
concerned.
will ask Kagiso to look into that. We have 50. Okay, I'll ask Kagiso to look at how to. I'll just send him a note for now to look at how to push all these assignments from 4 to, I think, 8. I want to just see to where they go. But because if we do it, they've got a knock-on effect. You will still have. But I did build in a buffer period in between.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So there is some. I will ask him to push all the assignments a bit.
Okay, and then just regarding the marking, and sorry if I'm keeping up time. My apologies. Remember, this is now, for a lot of us at least, this is a new exercise or a new way of doing research. And up until your earlier comments on the beginning of the call, or at the beginning of the call, I was also starting to wonder why exactly are we doing all these things. But you've explained it now in the different steps. So we saw with the marking allocation is that how we're responding to, for instance, this assignment 3 is task 1, task 2, task 3, and task 4. So are you, or the markers, are you looking at, okay, did we attend to the specific requirements with the feedback, or are you also looking at, is there any validity or any, for lack of a better term, quality to the feedback that we're giving? Because remember, we're kind of learning as we go along. and what we've identified previously as a stakeholder might even still change as we go along, depending on further interviews and further information that we get.
So them are when they mark the specific assignment, they look for lack of a better word, common sense. That
Okay.
common sense prevailed, right? So, and that there is a golden thread. So if you are doing the 20 or the events setup, you're not all of a sudden going to interview pilots or saying pilots or a stakeholder. So they're looking for a golden thread and a common sense understanding that you went through the process of trying to understand who these stakeholders are, how they all come together, and to in the end identify a problem. So they are looking, did you look for this problem?
Okay. Okay. And just to confirm that the customer that we need to identify, that's not a specific customer. It can be the customer as in the industry as well.
Yeah, well, the industry could have a problem, yeah.
Yeah. So not necessarily going to say that, for instance, the Securio Loftus, which is the name for the Blue Bulls rugby stadium in Pretoria, not to say that Securio Loftus, as an example, is the customer, but say the industry of rugby stadiums can be the customer, as an
Yes.
example. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
And they have a specific problem. It's very difficult to interview those big corporate kind of customers, and they are very limited in their numbers. So
And availability as well, yes.
yeah, so it might be easier to interview people that watch rugby at the stadium.
Okay, but I saw in one of
Or soccer. Yeah.
the WhatsApp chat replies, you mentioned that if you then go that route, say a family member, whoever you want to interview, I think you mentioned that that person needs to be participating in that, I think, resource, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody asked, can I interview my family member? And then you responded by saying that family member must be linked to that resource or something like that.
Yes. So you can't say, okay, Elton, now you pretend you own Blue Bulls rugby and answer my questions.
Okay, okay. It has to be, if you're going that route, there has to be some kind of legitimacy behind it.
Yeah, look, in the end, so one of the reasons also that we are doing it, expect this thing, beyond just the obvious of getting your degrees and things, is that you might, through this process, actually end up with an idea that is something that you want to take further and start your own business.
Okay.
So if you pretend, then it's also a pretend business. Then there's nothing you can do with it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Shanghai.
Good evening, Doc. Mine is a clarity-seeking question with its regard to assignment 4 and 5. I just want to ask, when we are interviewing our maybe in our case it's the buyers, we are interviewing buyers for assignment 2, do we ask the same questions in assignment 5?
Yes. So it's basically a continuation of the process.
Okay.
So you're going to do interviews. So assignment 4, I think, is only the first 5 interviews that you do. So it will be this part here that we were talking about. And then you have to go do the next sets of 5 interviews.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Then the other thing is with the consent form, can I also explain to them, then fill it in on their behalf after explaining to them?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You need to put just there, I think there is a email address or something that it links, but you can't do it,
Okay, thank you.
Let's just see. Maji?
Thank you, Doc, and good evening. I think, okay, first, a clarity for our team is how do we then present the final picture with assignment 4, especially around the transcripts? Is there a template for that, or do we just take the transcripts and just paste them on the what you call
them
on the group template?
Yep.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you for that. And I think for me, Doc, well, this point has been spoken and you've explained, but I think when the session started, then and Sean started asking the questions, and the questions that followed after that got me a little bit confused in my understanding of how to approach assignment 4, or our approach as a team, where from assignment 3, our understanding that once we've went and identified each stakeholder amongst ourselves, we came back, and then the final customer, we agreed on one final customer that we're going to focus on, which was then, that's the one that where we put together their pains, gains, and their jobs. And our understanding is for assignment 4, then the focus is not so much on all the other stakeholders, is on the customer that we then are looking at their pains, which will speak to their challenges. And that's
their problem then.
Their problem, yes. So, for example, we took the airport as well, and I think one of the problems we said, because of where it's situated and an end. So us going and asking those questions, even though in our case we're all over, we're not. I don't even know where the airport is. So, and our understanding is, we, based on our customer, we can still get asked the same questions, even though they've never actually used Wunderboom. And that is our understanding, not that we're going to go back and try and ask and interview all the other stakeholders. Our understanding was we're going to interview the customer that we then eventually, when we submitted assignment 3, we said this is the customer profile that we want to focus on. Is that the correct understanding?
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you.
This person here that we had here in our building here, right? So you had, what did you learn, right? And what is the potential problem? And then you said, okay, this is the person that experiences that these empty buildings must be filled. And now we're going to group it down the whole time into it. This, the idea that I have was just multidimensional. So, it resulted in more stakeholders as I thought through it. I often answer these questions live, so there's no time to think through.
No, I understand.
So I also think through it as I try to explain, and then sometimes things just happen to be
a bit confusing. More than providing clarity. No, I think because as the conversation and the discussion was going, I'm like, maybe we, and Doc, maybe as a last one is, so we go and interview now, and then maybe we come back and we find that the problem is, like you've been saying, there are other problems bigger than the initial problems based on our hypothesis, which then might prompt us moving from this specific customer to the next within the identified stakeholder. Is that something that is possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
Thank
this
you.
is a live process. So it's an iterative process. So most research would be iterative. So it's difficult to explain, except if using your example, or I can use my master students and PhD students also. So you set off and you think, okay, and this is the problem that I am trying to solve with my research. And then you go to gather data and then you realize, actually, that's not really the problem. The problem is a little bit different. And then you have to go backward and go change what you have done, especially in a thesis environment, so that it fits with what you find. Because
Yeah.
sometimes what you find is not what you thought you were going to find.
Yeah.
Like my millies, no? I thought everybody had a problem with the millies package like that. And then I realized it's just me.
Yeah. No, I totally understand, Doc. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Tipoku?
One last question, Doc, and I do apologize if you have covered this. I just want to make sure that I understand. So I know that assignment 4 and 5 are falling on top of each other. They overlap each other because the very first one, it will be 5 people per group member. For an example, our group has 4 people, so it will be 20 in total. And then when we move to assignment 5, we then are asked to repeat the exercise 3 more times because the first one would be the 4th, right? So in total, because we were having this debate in my group, so in total we should have about 80 people that we would have interviewed to conclusively say this is the problem that we are trying, because in our group, Doc, we don't have a problem yet. As I said, we didn't even know of the airport before, so we're still trying to discover that as well.
Yeah, look, so like the previous speaker was saying, right? So the fact that you didn't even know about the airport says that you're probably not the customer for the airport, because it's the biggest training airport in Southern Africa. So people from all over the world come to train at that airport. So and that's what they're using at that as the moment. So but you don't need to be close to that airport or to go speak to the airport to understand if you want to train as a pilot, but that's a very tricky industry to work with. And there were students that last year took it and said, okay, we're just going to take the aviation industry, and they developed apps to help other people be on time for their flights. So you don't necessarily have to stick to Wonderboom Airport. You can say, okay, let's make it bigger and see what's the problems at any airport or related to air travel, or like I said, to smaller ports.
Stop.
Okay, let's see. Still people joining us. Ruda?
Hi, good evening, Doc, and good evening, everyone. A question that I had raised my hand for, you've kind of answered partially.
Okay.
It was around we said the common sense, the marking will be to determine common sense and golden thread. And following that, another comment you made is sometimes you, as a group, we think we've identified a problem, and then when we go out on the market, you observe and then find a completely different problem. So in our group, originally we said there's a transformation issue within the fresh produce market, and we looked at the UN SDG goals that we selected in the AU, and we used the Competition Commission report that was released recently speaking on the transformation issue around that. So we wanted to tackle that. So, but when we went and digging more, we then realized that there's another gap, because key thing for us was to maximize revenue for the fresh produce market so that it's sustainable. So we then looked at how can we go about doing that. So as more we explore, things change. I'm fine with that because you've explained that's not a problem. But now our assignments, the ways that they're structured, is they're cumulative. We submitted assignment 2, presented this data or whatever information we put in there. And then assignment 3, we're learning things differently. So if then, I don't want to call it conflicting because it's not really conflicting, but it's more like a developing information as we go out there. How then do we proceed without going back to assignment 2 and 3 to correct the new findings?
So you can go back and correct it for yourself. You're just not going to get marks to correct it for yourself. But in the end, going forward, so after this, when you start consolidating and say, okay, we are changing the assumptions that we are making. And you can also say in the learning part, in our learn interviews, we learned that our assumptions about the problem was correct. And going forward, we are going to investigate the next one. That's why the learning and testing card are kind of sandwiched in between the 555 interviews, right? In the end, when you do your 5-minute pitch, you're going to start and make a proclamation that the problem that we are solving is X. It's experienced by these people, and we are solving it doing whatever we want to do, you want to do, and we will use that. Then you use the business model canvas to show how you will actually make money in solving the problem. So in the end, you can make the changes, but you don't make them, submit them backward. You just incorporate them going forward.
All right, got it. Thanks very much, Doc.
Okay. Sure.
Hi, Doc. There's our other student. I thought she's going to raise the question, but she didn't ask it yet. This is an interview, and when I was talking to her this afternoon, she indicated that somewhere on your document, it was advised or it was stated that you could do interviews and it was surveys, and I wasn't certain whether you could send a survey, and I did say I don't think it is. And I'm looking for your consent, but I couldn't read that. So this is an interview. This is no surveys where we can email someone and they complete it, correct?
No. This is an interview because you need to be able to speak to them. The form actually says that you are confirming that the students did an interview and not the survey. So it gives them an option to say, what did the students do? Did they interview or do a survey? That form does give you that option.
What's the last part? You just broke up the doc. Just explain the last part.
The form.
Yes.
That does give the respondents the option to choose. Did the students do an interview or a survey, or a questionnaire? But it doesn't give you the option to do it. It's just because students change it into a online form and let people interview. But it can be done on Teams and things like that.
Okay, got it.
The lady.
Good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
Yes, I just want to confirm something. You already answered most of the questions from other students. So in our group, we are actually dealing with the airport, Vodacom Airport. So we identify different stakeholders. According to what you have answered, you have said then when we do this interview, we're gonna do all of us do the interview for the one stakeholder that we have identified, even if it was different one. Let's say in our group we to go with the customers. So all of us, 5 of us, even if others were doing different stakeholders like cargo operators, airline, ground handlers. But now with this assignment 4, we're going to all of us now focus on the customers.
Yes.
I just want to confirm that we're no longer going to go and check the problem according to the different stakeholders, because we'll the different research then. We will be dealing with a different problem. So all of us viewing the customers. So, but now I just want to confirm, because with this airport, the customers is not per se the people. Actually, most of the customers in that airport is it's chartered flight, because it's like a private airport. So now, which means when we're dealing with customers, it's so broad. I need a clarity on there. If when we say customers, the retail.
When you did your analysis, you would have done a that pie chart to say, okay, these are the pains people are experiencing. Who in that pie chart did you think are experiencing these problems here?
Okay.
And those would then be the people that you would be interviewing. So it won't necessarily, it won't be, the chances of it being somebody already at the airport or vendors at the airport is very small. So you could say, okay, is it people then? And you must also ask yourself the question whether or not you will have access to those people. To say, okay, is it people that charter airplanes, or can we say, let's interview even with charter airplanes, right? Let us just say, if we look at the charter guys, who does not use the charter airplanes, and why don't they use the charter airplanes? And that's a little bit broader, and that would likely be myself and most people in this class.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter where I am. Chances are very slim that I would charter an airplane.
Yes, because it's very much expensive, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you also need to do these things within the parameters that you have access to people. So without people lying. And the idea in the end is then to create, use this for you guys to create businesses within your community where you are. Okay.
Oh, okay, thank you so much.
So I can give you example for rural areas, right? So I've got a lot of family who farm in rural areas, and for an ambulance to get to Lady Gray, where my sister and them are, right? Even from the town to the farm itself will take about an hour. So they have there's this to solve that medical emergency. They subscribe in these rural areas to like helicopter emergency services. That's a chartered flight, but you pay every month and it contributes then to that chartered flight. So it's still the same customer, pool, but just different application.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
No worries. Let me just see. Okay, let's look at this from the. Okay. from here. Can we do in paper-based question? Yes, you can do in-person paper interviews that you can do. It's fine. You just need to kind of type the answers out. Stakeholders NGO. Okay, so you don't want to, with the NGO, interview other charities because you, as the NGO, has to solve a specific, big enough problem in the community in order to get donations to actually do what you do. So while you don't have to make profit, you still need to have a problem that's worth solving, that people will give you money to go solve that problem for. So to speak to beneficiaries, no. Again, you need to speak to people to confirm that there is a problem. You can't do teen pregnancies, but young people dropping out of university because they fall pregnant. I don't know. But you can have a look at something surrounding that. I was this week in a meeting where they actually solved the problem for mental health practitioners by creating a course for school leavers, young school leavers, to become mental health counselors at schools. So, that's also an NGO, but they solve a problem of mental health. So to do that, you would need to speak to understand that is there a problem of mental health. Now, there's a lot of data, so you don't necessarily have to do the interviews, but there's also, but that's why it's not one of your things. Okay, let's see. So now, not the charities, again, to the people that have the problem. You need to confirm that there is a big enough problem. Assignments 4, you do 5 interviews, right? Then you say, okay, each do 5 interviews. We say, okay, we think this is the problem, and then you're going to repeat it 1, 2, 3 times. You're going to do the same thing. In the end, you would have 100 interviews. Okay, I want to confirm for assignment 4. So, you do your 5 interviews here. You combine the data that you have from the 5 interviews into one learning card. Then you will test another thing. So you have your second testing card. And that testing card, you will test in assignment 5. What will you learn? What can you test? You will go forward through that. Okay. Sample test, okay. Done that. Also, we're going to do interview the customer of the stakeholder we have selected. Yes, so not the customer of the stakeholder. When you did your analysis, you did that pie chart and you said, okay, we think there is this problem in the market. You're going to interview the people you think have that problem. Okay. All right. Okay. Did I answer all those questions? I think so. Okay, there we are. All right. I think I've answered all the questions in the chat. Is it a bit clearer for you guys? Okay.
Yes, Doc.
I'm going to try and stop the recording. Some keys where I will give you a